So continuing with the glass ball, this will be part 2. What we need to do from here is we need to change the opacity of this top layer to 30%. So we're just going to click right there where it says opacity in the layers menu, and then we are going we're going to change that to 30%. One thing that I did forget to do, we're going to click right here on layer 2. It should be the one that's clipped, but we need to add a little bit more depth to our sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a layer mask, and I want this to be on the gradient tool, and I'm going to change it from linear to radial. And then I'm going to click in the middle, and I'm going to drag out to the edge. And it should add a little bit of that. If it doesn't do that, you can hit Control Z. If it does something like this, you can hit Control Z, and then hit X, and then it should work out for you. So from there, we're going to go back to the top layer. We're going to highlight that. We're going to add a new layer, and we're going to click on our brush tool. We're going to go to the size 20, about 20, hardness at 100, and we are going to make sure we're going to click on our foreground color, our foreground swatch right here, if you can see where my cursor is at. So this should pop up, and if it's white already, you should see all Fs. But even if it's not, what you want to do is change that code to be 4 Fs and then an E and 8. And then go ahead and hit OK. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click right up here around this area, add a glare. We see that it's pretty harsh. So we're going to go right here, and we're going to go to Filter, Blur, and then Gaussian blur, and we're going to change this radius to 0.5, and we're going to hit OK. And then what we want to do to add a little bit more of that blurred effect, we're going to go right here to FX in our layers palette, and we're going to go to outer glow. So this should pop up. We should see outer glow here. The things that we want to change, we want it to be screen, the blend mode. We want the opacity to be 75%. I would click right here in the swatch, if you can see where my cursor is at, just to double check that you have the same code right there. If you do, hit OK. If not, change it. And then we want softer, the spread to be 0, the size to be 9. And from there, and the range to be 50. And from there, we can go ahead and hit OK. So we should see just something like that. And then from here, we are going to click on Layer 1 Copy, which should be the one underneath the clipped layer. So we're going to highlight that. And we're going to change that fill to be 25%. We should see that it starts to go transparent. Then we want to highlight the background layer, and then we're going to go ahead and make a new layer. And from there, we're going to hold Control, and we're going to click on the thumbnail of Layer 1 Copy, and that gives us that quick selection of that circle. And then we're going to go back to our gradient tool, and we are going to make sure black is on top, so we can hit D. And that should put black on top. And then we're going to click right here in our gradients palette, and we're going to go black to transparent. And once you have that, we want reverse checked. We're going to click in the middle, and we're going to drag out to the edge. So it should go dark around the outside and then to transparent in the middle. From there, you can go ahead and hit Control D, and then hit Control T, which is the same as edit, and then free transform, which is a very handy shortcut. And then we're going to click on this middle dot, and we're going to drag down. So about the center, maybe a little bit less, to where we start to see that shadow form. And then we are going to move it over to the right, something about right here. You can also use the arrows on your keyboard to move it in tiny increments. Once you have that, go ahead and hit enter. And then what we want to do is we want to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur again. And from here, we want the radius to be 2 to kind of blur out the edge of that shadow, give it a little bit more realistic look. And then we want to change the opacity of that to 50%. Now from here, we still see that it looks a little bit flat. And the reason that is because we have a transparent glass ball. So our shadow and the behavior of the background should actually not behave that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold control on our keyboard. We're going to highlight. We're going to click on the thumbnail of the layer 1 copy again, making that quick selection. And then we are going to go to filter, distort, and then spherize. And we want the amount to be 100, mode to be normal. It should already be that way, but if not, change it. Then go ahead and hit OK. And then we start to see that the shadow is distorted a little bit. But we still need that same thing to happen for our background. So with that selection still selected, we're going to scroll down on our layers palette and highlight the background layer. And then we're going to go back to filter. And we see right up here at the top that it says spherize already. And what that means is that Photoshop will save the last filtered effect that you did. And if you actually like shortcuts, you can hit Control-Alt-F, or you can just go filter, spherize. And since we have to do the same exact thing again, that's okay to use. So we're going to go ahead and hit that. And then now we see that our background is distorted. And then what we want to do is hit Control-D. And then now we see that our glass ball has emerged and it looks spherical and pretty realistic.